Hi, everyone. I'm John.
And I'm Rory.
And we're glad to be back with you to talk about Truchard Vineyard. Remember that beautiful virtual tasting we did earlier this year with the Truchard?
It's just tons of fun. We tasted the 17 Chardonnay and the Merlot from the Truchard Vineyard in that tasting. We got a new Chardonnay for you that'll be arriving soon, the 2018. Absolutely delicious, the Shale and Stone Chardonnay.
Yeah, we talked about it on the video, which we're going to show now, and the idea that this wine is grown in this deep fractured shale and then aged in concrete. So enjoy it. You're letting down on your duties.
Sorry.
So we've got a really interesting show today talking about, speaking about families, and we're very excited because we have that's all? No, that's good. Don't worry about it.
It's a big fishbowl glass.
Yeah, it is true.
If you want to give you the country club.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. Yeah. We are going to be joined in a few moments by the Truchard family, who are amongst our dearest friends in all of the Napa Valley, and have been for so many years. And you're going to see these are a group of characters just like we are. And I think if you don't know their wines, you're going to be introduced to them today. And you should really be big fans of these wines, as we are. We were both we were in touch a little earlier and realized that as soon as we get each other's wines, we drink them up, and so neither one of us had any wine.
Oh my God! We need some emergency shipments.
We need some emergency shipments. So the Truchards will be joining us in about 10 minutes or so. But in a way, they're joining us right now, and we have our 17 Chardonnay made entirely from the Truchard Vineyard.
That's true. And just a quick housekeeping reminder. So we're going to keep Instagram Live going once the Truchards join us, but highly recommend everybody joining us via Zoom for this, just so you can, they're going to share some videos and you'll be able to hear the back and forth. We're going to keep it going, but the audio might be a little shaky on Instagram. So please join us on Zoom. It'll just be much better experience that way. We'll keep reminding you about that. And as ever, please send Q&A through Zoom, and we'll interpret the questions to our own advantage and provide the answer we want.
You know, I think the best part of all this is look at all the new words I'm learning, like Zoom and and original gangster. Isn't that what
Bottle.
No, stop. All right.
I mean, you never did pass kindergarten.
I know. Oh, wait, I have a master's degree.
That's true.
Bill Quain was asking me what I was too embarrassed to answer him, but
well, yeah. So we got the 17 Chardonnay in the glass. For those of you who joined us with Eric Asimov a few weeks ago, we were drinking the 18 Chardonnay, the Shale and Stone with the new label and all of that. And we actually pulled out the 17 today because we've got way too much wine to know. I'm sorry. We actually wanted to explore how this wine was coming along.
Well, earlier this week, we also had a chance to go back and try, out of curiosity, the 14, 15, and 16 Chardonnays. And, one of the things that we were excited about when we started experimenting with this new way of using the Truchard grapes in the way we ferment them, and we'll talk about that in a little bit, was one of the goals was to keep these wines in their reductive state and to keep them so nicely balanced that they would develop with age, because any of you who drink white Burgundies know that there's few pleasures as great as a 6, 8, 10-year-old white Burgundy that has has gone the distance. And I was really
I was pretty blown away. I wasn't no offense to our esteemed emeritus winemaker here, but we were
that's emeritus. You got to stop with
I'm trying to teach you new words. We weren't sure what to expect with the Chardonnay with 5, 6 years of age on it at this point, but really pleasantly surprised. And once we kind of found, we're totally open to what might happen with these wines as they develop. They get more subtle, but actually that, and for all of our purposes of steering away from the kind of oak and butterbomb style of and creamy style Chardonnays and all that, it was really interesting because the wine had all this freshness and had all this beautiful acidity to it. but it had gotten a little bit creamier. It had gotten a little bit richer, and smoother, and more round out. Yeah,
it needed to be decanted to really show itself. So it was
but only if you had one of those really fancy decanters.
Oh yeah, the ones that aerate when you come
the
down.
Ones you have to hold up like this.
That'd be a nice Christmas present. I'm just saying.
No, but I'll just probably get you socks again.
Yes, jammas again.
No, but this is actually developing beautifully, and you can see the 17 is starting to go down that path of developing that roundness more and more, and getting away from the sort of just simple white peach fruit and minerality, but it really rounding out nicely.
Well, we wanted to do this because we're going to have a variety of white grape that many of you haven't heard when we taste with the Truchards, and it is renowned for its ability to age, is it not? And so that'll be kind of exciting to ask them whether they keep any of the older bottles of Roussanne and whether they might invite us down.
And how come they haven't shared anything? Like, come on,
they're going to get grilled. They're going to get grilled.
We actually have a cool question on here. Can you tell us a bit more about the concrete tank aging? It's very interesting to visualize. Yeah. So you want to take them? You recapped this a couple weeks ago, but it's worth kind of going into.
It really is, because it's a fairly unique way of handling Chardonnay, and a lot of experimentation went into this. But first of all, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later, you got to have the grapes, and this is a single vineyard, the Truchard Vineyard, and we'll talk with Tony a little bit about what inspired him to grow these grapes in the Kramer block. But the idea is to get these grapes when they still have all that beautiful natural acidity. We settle them in a tank overnight, the juice, and then we rack them into a fresh tank. And we wait for the fermentation, which is a natural yeast fermentation. We don't add a yeast to it. And when that natural yeast fermentation just starts to take off, we barrel it down into brand new French oak. And we do a 100% barrel fermentation in brand new French oak. But we only allow it to ferment in the bottle for 3, 4, 5 days.
In barrel.
In barrel, I'm sorry, yeah. Just until it gets up to the peak of its fermentation. And then we take it out to a large tank we have downstairs. It's a concrete room that has been lined actually with stainless steel. So it's not in touch with the concrete, but the concrete backs the stainless steel and absorbs all the heat of the fermentation, because this wine is going in there at 75 or 80 degrees. And the whole idea was to get the wine to stay on the lees and to ferment completely dryly. And then once it is complete in that tank, we just cap it up, and it spends 11, almost this year, we may even go a full 12 months on the lees before we rack it off and bottle it. And
so it's kind of an interesting path for these grapes, which wake up one morning, not really knowing what's about to hit them. And, they get picked, they're into the winery, they're getting skin contact, they're getting pressed. They get one day to kind of relax. And then all of a sudden they're getting this hot fermentation going. They're going into this barrel. The lees are stirring. The temperature's high. It's kind of going crazy. And right as it starts to finish its fermentation, it just goes into a quiet, dark room for almost a year and just chills out. And at that point, we really don't do much with it. It sits in this very large concrete tank, and the heat of the fermentation is absorbed and then resorbed into the wine, and it just continues to develop over the winter. And it's kind of fun tasting it, gaining its cool over the winter.
It goes through a number of reductive stages, but it also often goes through a partial and sometimes a full malolactic. We allow that to develop on its own. So it's almost like a natural wine.
Yeah. Dad, we don't want to go down that path. I would agree with you, but we don't want to go down that path.
Well, look, here's the story. Chardonnay, we talked about this when we tasted the Shale and Stone, the 18 version of this. The Chardonnay is very much a wine of technique, and so it allows the vintner to put their own stamp onto their style, and so that's why you see California styles ranging from this fairly, if you're a French wine drinker, more from a Chablis sort of style, all the way up to fully charged big Bettard Montrachet, creamy, sweet, oaky sort of styles, and we see that wide range in the Napa Valley. It's just our personal preference is for more on this end of the range.
And there's an interesting question on here. What do you think is the distinction between the Shale and Stone and this Chardonnay? And it's interesting. The Shale and Stone is a name we came up with just to try to convey the sense of this technique. and the sense of really our intention and what we're going after with this wine.
So the only difference, the actual answer is 1 year. Because that's just the new vintage of our Chardonnay. It's just with that vintage. We were actually having a little trouble with people understanding our style of Chardonnay. And so we thought this moniker, and we got to check this with Tony. It's a clay soil, but on a shale
shale is compacted clay, basically. Rocky clay.
All right, and so I'm trying to convey this idea that we're really trying to express the mineral sort of quality of Chardonnay. So the Shale and Stone is just a new name, an addition to the name of the wine on the bottle to try to help people understand a little bit better of the style of our Chardonnay. We hope you enjoy it. We've been drinking a lot of this wine ourselves.
We've been drinking a lot of it. I think we're really happy with it. There's a question on here, do we do a malolactic fermentation? And we kind of touched on that where sometimes, and actually we don't do anything about that. We don't add sulfur to the wine once it gets into this tank, so into the big concrete tank. And so sometimes the wine doesn't go through malo. Sometimes it goes halfway through and stops. And sometimes it goes all the way through. And we don't really desire to control it one way or the other, which would take us racking it or getting it really cold or adding a bunch of sulfur.
Or even testing.
or even bothering to taste it. Damn, we weren't going to make it. No, we are. We were there tasting it every day.
No, we don't taste it. And that's part of the, the discussion we had. But the French vignerons feel that wines have a natural affinity for malolactic, and that if you allow them to express that natural, they will find a balance in and of their own. And that's the way we feel about this Chardonnay. And so it ranges. We've got everything from the last few vintages from 0 to 100%. I have no idea what this is. Do you?
I actually don't. I'm probably on this sheet here.
It probably isn't actually.
It's in there somewhere. But it's for us, it's less important about whether it hey, we did a malolactic fermentation because we wanted the butter in the wine, or we stopped it because we didn't want the butter. It kind of ends up not being that big oak butter bomb just on its own.
I don't think you'd be able to tell malolactic or not. But I think what we should do now is introduce the man, the legend who grew these grapes, and his son. And
you mean his father, right?
His father.
Works just like Bronson.
Oh my God! Here we go.
All right, so we're starting.
But really, the wrinkle this time is we're going to hopefully have Joanne join them as well, because she's the one who really wears it. She totally 100%. Are the Truchards there? Can we key them in? Yeah, we're hoping. Hey, hey, Tony, are you there?
Yes, we're here. We're enjoying the Chardonnay as well. Thank you.
Well, Tony, is that a clean shirt you have on? Oh my gosh, look at that. Hey, thanks for joining us today, you guys.
Real pleasure. Thanks for inviting us.
We love the background there with the barrels and everything like that. Man, you guys did it up professionally here.
Notice how they're 4 high.
We can't see the bottom, so they could be 12 high. We wouldn't know for
just
sure.
Lie to us. We can only afford these flowers. We don't have enough money for barrels anymore.
Yeah. Well, Tony, it's been a lot of years. You've been growing Chardonnay for us and building your beautiful vineyard down there, and now you're working with Anthony. Well, I hear he's doing all the actual work these days, but another father-son team here.
I'm still out in the vineyard.
He's
That is true. I will tell this to everyone listening. If you go down to Truchard Vineyards, you will find Tony Truchard in the vineyards. That's for sure. That's been your passion for so many years here. But your family goes back in farming, even generations before you. Is that correct, Tony?
Well, in the late 1800s, 1887, 89, somewhere in that.
You were just a lad, right?
Yeah. My grandfather came over and started a vineyard and a winery in Texas, and they built a nice barn, very, very similar to what we have here. And they I think one of the brothers was a broker of grapevines, and we investigating some of the old records, my sister found some advertisements for root cuttings and grafted vines, and back that was probably 1890 or something like that.
Oh my gosh!
So anyhow, in the hot, humid part of Texas, it did not work out. So ended up using the winery as a barn, and that's why we always say that in Texas we took an old winery building and made a farm barn. In California, we came out and took an old farm barn and made a winery. So that's kind of a brief history.
Get some wine in your glass here. We just poured ourselves.
There's only one rule about day drinking with us: is you got to be drinking.
You got to be drinking. So
We got to keep up with you. Well, good job on the Chardonnay. You didn't mess up the fruit.
That's the highest compliment a grower can give to a winemaker.
It really is, yeah. I've heard growers say that the biggest pest in the vineyard is the winemaker. Tony can probably identify with that. Tell us about Roussanne, Anthony. I mean, this is not a variety that most people know very well.
No, this is something that we planted back in 1998. We've been growing grapes here in Carneros since 74. And Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Cabernet have always kind of been our flagships, and that's about 80% of what we have through the vineyards. But, as farmers do, he got bored with Chardonnay, Pinot, and Cabernet and started planting this stuff. He didn't care if we could sell it or not. He was just like, I want to see how it grows.
I'd like to give a story how we got into Roussanne. We had a very successful Syrah from the early 90s, and we went to several Rhone events, and in Paso Robles they have this. They had this Viognier guile, and we showed our Syrah there, and we were tasting the Viogniers and the Roussannes, and we said, it sure be nice to have a white Rhone to complement our Syrah that had been so successful at that time. So we decided on the Roussanne. We thought Viognier had been around for a while and never made any kind of splash. So we went with the Roussanne, and we have it planted on a volcanic ash. It's a totally different soil type than where the Chardonnay is, and it's pretty much rolling hills. And we've been really happy with it. There is some problems. It ripens when we pick Cabernet. We usually pick a few tons of Roussanne first thing in the morning, and then we go pick Cabernet. And that
late ripening grape.
Yeah.
And it has a reputation of being extremely difficult to grow. It is susceptible to mildew. It's late ripening. It doesn't set well. Have you?
You guys identify with that?
My dad has said many times, if he knew what he knew about Roussanne now, he probably wouldn't have planted it. The end result is so good.
I think it's close to explain that the Roussanne, typically planted in France, is planted in the areas where they grow Syrah in the Rhone, and it has always been thought as a grape that complements Syrah. But there are great white Rhones. Are they mostly Roussanne?
A lot of Roussanne, Marsanne, and Viognier. There are some straight Roussannes in France, though, especially up in the Savoie. They'll make up in the Alpine.
They call it by a different name, though.
They call it Bergeron up there, but it's the French have a million different names for every grape. But as if it weren't difficult enough to grow any grape in the Alps, apparently you got to grow Roussanne. So.
It is a problem with rot late, botrytis late in the season, and we have in the past made a late harvest Roussanne, very, very special wine. In fact, we changed.
And that's exactly how you make lemonade out of lemons, by the way. You make late harvest wine out of your rot.
Yeah, so here's a fun story with the Roussanne. This is one of my dad's favorite wines, actually, probably because it's the most challenging to grow. But pretty much every day, at the end of the day, he'll sit down and open a bottle of this. And so much so that, when we first made it, nobody knew what the heck Roussanne was. We had a challenge selling it. People thought maybe it's sweet, maybe it's like Riesling. What is this grape? And so the truth was we were kind of just drinking it all because we couldn't sell it. And, about 2005, the world shifted and aromatic whites were cool and new. And so it went from being our hardest wine to sell to the wine that sells out the quickest. So one day I came to my dad and I was like, Dad, you've been drinking a bottle of this every day. We're going to have 30 cases for the rest of the year. So the very next year, he planted another acre just for himself.
That's what you call a garden. I love it.
Exactly. So if you come to the Truchard, we have 3.5 acres in one spot, and then about 300 yards to the west, we have another acre. that, it's Tony's spot.
Tony's block. That's perfect. Well, you guys have almost 400 acres down there. How much? I don't know how much of that's planted, but you have several different soil types. And Tony, you were really a pioneer in the Carneros area. I mean, not many people were growing grapes down there when you foolishly decided to buy land, and it was too cold to grow grapes down there, right?
Probably no more than about 6 vineyards down in this area. In fact, on where our property is now, you could not see any other vineyards. It was just open pastures, abandoned farms, and so forth. Now, the soil types are so variable and different here, from the marine soils to the volcanic soils, and it's interesting working with the two. And they have different tanning structures in the volcanic soils as opposed to the marine soils, and it's really a special place. And with all the different ravines and canyons, we have so many different exposures, and a lot of times people think it's crazy to grow so many different varieties on one property, but once you see the property and explore the property, it's not surprising.
It really isn't. And by the way, it's got to be the most beautiful vineyard in the Napa Valley.
We love going down there to sample and walk the vineyard just because.
Sampling is not, I could go down there and enjoy it without sampling. You got to be a freaking mountain goat to go up some of those.
No, I know. One of the things I want to say, though, we always appreciate about John and Rory is that they're out in the vineyards. We sell grapes to over 25 other wineries throughout Napa. And with the exception of people that are making, 300-400 cases. John and Rory are the only owners that are coming out there and walking the field. So I want to give them a lot of credit. And we've been doing this for a long time. And John could probably sit and let his crew do it, but he still comes out. He even delivers the bins, which I'm impressed about.
Yeah, they still let me deliver the bins.
That's because you stopped at Buttercream Bakery on the way down.
There is. I got my places to stop for lunch on the way down.
Relationship.
Well, this is a gorgeous wine. I know not everyone on the camera with us today has had a chance to try this, but and we know it's limited at the winery, so you pretty much have to get this at the winery. I would guess, but we have a tradition of rating the wine. Anthony, how many points would you give this wine if you were going to rate it?
I don't know. I think maybe this 100.
100 point wine. Another
100-point wine. Oh my God! Everybody joining us. It's just incredible. The streak of 100-point wine.
Yeah.
It's be the best podcast in the world.
Back-to-back 100 wines. First the Chardonnay and then the Roussanne.
Well, let's see if the streak continues, because you grow another difficult variety that most people don't want to take on and make, and that, of course, is Pinot Noir. Can we transition to your Pinot Noir here? I want to, anyway.
Get your glass over.
Yeah. We got a lot of wines to drink today, you guys.
So this is our 2017 Pinot, and this is probably one of my favorites. Like I said, my dad's keen on the Roussanne, which I do drink quite a bit of, but the Pinot is probably the one that I take home most often at the end of the day.
Yeah. Well, this is a notoriously difficult grape to grow and to make as well. So what's your special sauce with this?
Part of it's the age of the vines. I mean, when we came back down here in 73, people were, most people are still planting Cabernet and a lot of other things. So when my dad came down to Carneros, they're like, well, if you're going to plant down there, you should probably plant Chardonnay and Pinot, because those are going to be the few grapes that might ripen in that cool area. And so we planted an old Martini clone in 1974, and that's still in this wine. So, 46-year-old vines. And I think we've augmented it with some other clones as well. Like in the late 90s, we did the Dijon clones like everybody else. We have some Swan and Pomard in there as well. But when we do some of the new plantings, we actually take some of the cuttings from that old Martini. We really just like the way it performs on the property. It kind of gives it a real potpourri of kind of like rhubarb and pomegranate. And the thing I love about this wine is the aromatics. I can just sit there and smell it for 30 minutes and still get a lot of pleasure.
Yeah. Wow.
This is really, really delicious. I can just Well done, because Pinot Noir is like the one grape that we're a little afraid to take on ourselves.
Well, everyone says, why don't you make a Pinot? And the truth of the matter is, Rutherford is not the greatest place in the world to grow a Pinot Noir. So we would have to be. And I have tinkered a little bit, as you guys remember, with a little Pinot Noir down there.
We know all your secrets, John. We know all your secrets.
That's why I'm talking nice about you. I don't want Tony telling any stories about when I, wreck my truck down there and get stuck and have to have me pull them out or whatever.
You're familiar with the Pinot Noir. You worked with it for a few years.
Yeah. Well,
for those of you who don't know, the rarest Pinot Noir in Napa Valley is the Aardvark Pinot Noir.
It's the first name in Pinot Noir.
And I believe that was the start and the end of the whole purpose of the wine, was just so you could make that one joke about it being the first name in Pinot Noir.
100%, I'll tell you. And there were some beautiful wines, rare and not as exceptional as this, but they were 95-point wines easily. Not maybe not 100 points.
Maybe not 100 points. But we're only satisfied with 100-point wines. So eventually we had to retire.
Can't do 100 points, you get out of the business, I say. Yeah. So what soils do you look for to plant Pinot Noir, or what exposures, Tony? So what are you looking for when you decide on Pinot Noir land, or you just throw a dart at the board?
If I had to do it over again, I would change things. I was working with Mike Havens, and we were up in the area. It was a new property we just bought back in the early 80s. And we saw all this white rock and white material, and we thought that was limestone. And so that's why we planted some Pinot Noir in that area. And it turned out that was ash too.
Not limestone.
Yeah, not limestone.
There was no calcium. There was no limestone, and it's amazing how sometimes you come onto things just in a totally wrong way. It's probably not our ideal place for Pinot, but it's on a more of an eastern slope, and that's what we try to do with the Pinot Noir, is plant it more on the southeastern type slopes, a little cooler in the afternoon, the sun beating down on it. And but most of our vineyards are in that kind of location. And,
Yeah, the funny thing is people think of us being Carneros. We actually have a lot more Cabernet on our property than Pinot Noir, because the Pinot Noir, we really can only face it on these kind of cooler east-facing valleys, because, we want to make an elegant style Pinot Noir, and we could make it a lot riper, but that's not our style. I mean, we started making wine about 5-6 years after you, and we just said we're going to make them like Broadleaf. We want them to be elegant, and fresh, and vibrant. We don't want these opulent wines. We want something that's vibrant.
100 points. I just want you to know that right up front. But, I don't really think of you guys as being in Carneros. I know that you are part of Carneros, but I mean, maybe you could describe your location for people who know the town of Napa. It is literally on the border of the town of Napa. You're on hills. It's not the flat marine land that we think of when we think of Carneros, right?
I had a visit by a geographer once, and we were talking about what happened here hundreds of thousands of years ago. A lot of Carneros was underwater. We weren't underwater, so our soil's a little bit more fluffy, if you will, or not
so compacted.
When the ground is underwater for a long time, it gets real compacted. I don't know the science behind that, but and we're kind of out of that range, that was inundated by water, in times past.
Right. Well, that's pretty cool.
Their area of Carneros is really interesting. We were talking about the different soils and the volcanic here, and we got the shale on our Chardonnay block. And this area of Carneros in the hills there is right where, when the California plate slammed into the North American plate, it kind of scraped off this. It's like if you took a little scrape off of an ice cream cone or something like that, and it kind of curls up like that and gets all mixed up. Yeah. That's the soil right in this area of Carneros. And so you get different soils that are right next to each other. And we see it in the Chardonnay, even in just that one block of Chardonnay, you would get completely different expressions from all over the place.
It drives you nuts, Tony, that we harvest a block of Chardonnay in over so many different days, and we're jumping all over the place. You must think I'm crazy.
John, we know you're crazy.
Oh, right.
It's a lot of sandstone in some of the Chardonnay. As you go up that hill, those short lines that you have us pick kind of for some other stuff, that whole hill there is sandstone. In fact, when we were planning that vineyard, I remember I was on a D2, didn't know how to drive it on that, and we were picking up rocks there, and it's sandstone. So a lot of that your property's underlaid by sandstone.
No room on the label for sandstone, so sorry.
We're going to put Bressa Dibble complex.
We thought you were referring to the sandstone. We didn't know about these concrete types.
Stone can be anything,
Hey, so we got questions coming in here, you guys, so hold on for a second here.
Yeah, so we did have a question about, where Truchard is located in Carneros, which is, kind of generally speaking, the northern area of Carneros. It's just in a big general.
Northern, north, and most eastern vineyard in Carneros. So the northern and most eastern, right at the edge.
Best to approximate it to the Southside Cafe. It's just over the hill from the Southside Cafe.
Exactly how far away is it from a fried chicken sandwich? That's what I need to know.
You could walk if you had to.
You had to do it.
We're kind of stealing their Wi-Fi right now, actually.
Yeah, maybe so.
And we had a question for you guys here on Zoom. For the Truchards, the Truchard Syrah is widely distributed. Is the Syrah grown on the estate? And I think
everything that says Truchard is from the estate. We sell to other people that sometimes will put Truchard on the label, or our grapes. Everything's estate. And we were talking about the different soil types, and there's a fault line that runs right through our property. It really divides kind of two separate properties. The southern part is a little bit more classic Carneros, clay, sandstone, and then the northern part is definitely more volcanic, and that's where the Syrah is grown.
Yeah.
And actually, you know about the Syrah. You made the Syrah for just a brief time.
We got one shot at it, and then Tony sold it out from under me. So, you have to be quick around him down there. I'll tell you that. Show me the money.
And some more. The fault line, it's kind of cool in relation to the 2014 Chardonnay that we tasted the other day.
Oh, remember the earthquake vintage in 14? Yeah.
14 was the earthquake vintage. And do you remember going to Truchard that year, right after the earthquake? We were going down there and checking grapes.
Yeah.
And we walked right alongside a vine, and we saw this crack in the ground.
Yeah.
And you could look down and you couldn't see the bottom. It was it was just kept on going. So a very active area of the world, I guess.
We were in a very active site in that earthquake. We had about 26 breaks in our irrigation lines.
Wow.
And the best quote was that John was like, it's just dry farm.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was the best vintage ever. We won't go there.
All right, should we jump to the Merlot?
One question came up is, have you ever used the Roussan in your Syrah? Because that was the idea. So you just never did that, right?
No. Yeah, I think it's traditionally Viognier that they add in. We never did that. But John, you had a question about, you were talking about the 14 Chardonnay in Roussan, if it ages well earlier, I think pre-call. And, it actually is a really fun wine. Right now we're drinking the 18, which is kind of fresh and vibrant. But if you wait for about 5-6 years in bottle, it totally turns into a different wine. It's almost like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. It starts off fresh and floral, but after about 5 or 6 years, it turns like almost an amber color. It gets a kind of an oxidation, but not a bad oxidation. A lot of the French Roussans are kind of oxidized on release. It's almost like a nuttiness, a cinnamon quality to it, like cardamom. It's really kind of a cool wine. And we will share an old bottle with you one of these days.
Yeah. Well, I think you need to plant another acre with my name on it.
Roussan is a very sensitive grape in the winery. You have to really keep it covered with gas because it really wants to oxidize. And some people, I think, make the mistake of putting skin contact on their Roussan, and that just
make orange ones.
Not what we do.
Yeah, I've had a skin contact Roussan before, and it's an intense expression of of the grape. And orange wines can be delicious, but I'm loving this Roussan, the way that it's developing and has the great acidity and the great tension. It's really, really delicious.
Well, I'm loving the Pinot Noir, and now that's a difficult wine to make. So what's your approach on? I know Sal has had a lot of years with these grapes, and maybe you want to give a shout out to Sal. He's been with you guys a lot of years. So what's his approach on making Pinot Noir?
Well, he likes to do a cold soak for about 4 or 5 days, and then when he starts the fermentation and it gets up into the 90 range, he pumps it probably 4 or 5 times a day, just for a few days, and then after that he really backs off on the pumping over.
Yeah, so kind of getting a lot of extraction from the skins right away, and then as soon as it's dry, we press it off the skins and put it into barrel.
In any specificity to the oak that you use for Pinot Noir?
So we're using about 30%. We use a lot of the Ramon barrels, and a little bit of François Ferrer, and about 35% new French oak.
Yeah.
And it's been for about 10 months.
Beautiful wine. And all those who didn't get a chance to try it on Zoom, is the Pinot still available on your website?
It is, yeah. No, yeah, definitely.
All of us at this point, with what's going on, have got a lot of wines available on our website. So dig in.
Yeah.
I want to say this to all of you out there listening. This is a time during this COVID stuff that we really need to support family wineries. We don't have the muscle to be out there. You've heard about the Boone and grocery stores and Costco's and so on. We don't have
That's mainly for the big guys.
That's for the big guys. We need all of you out there in our virtual land doing these tastings to support family wineries. And the Truchards are job one. Well, they're job two. We're job one.
Well, when you're in the market for Pinot Noir, yeah.
But you've got a lot of great wines on your wine list. Yeah. So speaking of great wine, so I assume you would give this a fairly high rating if you were asked to.
Might even.
Yeah. 100 points. Another 100-point wine. I swear to God.
I've been really eager to try this Merlot. I didn't even know you guys were making this Merlot. That's the whole reason I agreed to this taste.
We need to try the Merlot here. Yeah. But we got a lot of glasses today.
And if it kind of seems like we're bouncing around varieties, I think that just kind of speaks to all the diversity that's down in this vineyard that you guys have. So this is another kind of face, another expression of the Truchard Vineyard.
Well, and I would not call this a vineyard. I would call this a cliff because I have to sample this vineyard, and it is straight uphill. What's the slope on this vineyard of Merlot? Right back off your back pond there, Tony. I mean, that is steep.
Probably 20-30% some places.
That's 100% slope. I swear to God.
You only give things 100.
As the
boats down there just to get up there.
The slope is changing as the years go on.
Oh yeah.
It's 100% slope. These vines are literally upside down.
When I started sampling, it was 20%. Now it's 80%. This is a beautiful steep hillside vineyard of Merlot, and you were one of the early people to work. You were working with Merlot before Merlot was cool. Tony, what got you started along that direction?
I started with Francis Mahoney at Carneros Creek, and I wanted to plant Cabernet because, even back in, the mid 70s, Cabernet was kind of up and coming. So if I were going to deal with a vineyard down in the Napa Valley, I'd certainly want to plant Cabernet. And Carneros Creek said they would buy. Christian Brothers said they would buy it too, but I worked with Francis at Carneros Creek, and he said, "Well, I'll buy you Cabernet, but I think we need to plant some Merlot too, because we know that'll ripen in this area, and then we'll make a field blend." And the first field blend is that they made with the Cabernet and Merlot is wine that Dan Berger is still talking about. In fact, he said he was going to come by and bring us a model, and made such a nice wine. That's how we got into Merlot. And then we sold it to Van Duckhorn for a few years, and then
What winery is that? Oh, I know, actually.
Another one of those critter labels.
Didn't see that coming.
and so it became very popular. In fact, we were making 3,000 cases of Merlot and a lot less of all the other varieties at one point in time, and so I just went crazy planting a Merlot and planted probably some in areas that weren't ideal for Merlot. So then when the Merlot sales fell off, we converted probably close to half of it to Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc and other varieties because and we kept our very best hills.
For those of you joining in on Zoom, you make the joke all the time about how Sideways was the best thing that ever happened in Merlot because everybody.
Well, there's a testament to it.
It's a perfect example of this is just some of the consistently year in and year out when we do our tastings of Merlot. This is just one of the most fabulous lots of Merlot that we make.
Well, and a shout out to Mike Havens. He made some great Merlots with you guys during those years as well.
He was really instrumental in that early Merlot push. He's.
No, I think it's, I think Merlot is kind of interesting, but we do get the question sometimes that Merlot sometimes is thought about as this, hey, it's the semi-Cabernet, and so shouldn't it always grow or not grow well in the cooler areas of Napa? It would only do well in the hot areas. Yeah. And Merlot is kind of funny like that. It gets these foggy mornings down in Carneros, but as long as you get the sunshine exposed on it, it really does.
Well, this was the 17 vintage, and it got warm even in Carneros in 17. Yep. Maybe not 115 degrees, but you had over 100 degrees.
It got over 80 degrees down there, didn't it? You guys were in your swimming suits in the afternoon.
Yeah, 17, quite a vintage. Anyway, a beautiful wine. We would give this 100 points as well. I think you guys would agree. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's very nice.
Anthony, what's the chances we're going to be able to get your mother in the screenshot here? I know she's not too far away. There she is. Oh my God, Joanne, you should be front and center. When I think of all that you two had to go through, you were pioneers. I mean, you were basically in a covered wagon bringing how many kids? 5 kids to?
It was not a covered wagon. It was a Suburban, and there were 6 kids. Came and stayed in a travel trailer that was 23 foot. So we did
travel trailer with 6 kids trying to tend a vineyard all day long. You deserve a medal, my dear. And I'll tell you, if any of our listeners out there want to know who's holding the Truchard Vineyard together, you're looking at her right there. You're the bomb, kid. I love you.
I took my secret away. They don't know that. You just gave it.
You're giving away the secret. Yeah.
Well, you're usually who answers the phone whenever I call down there, so I know you're in charge. That's for sure. Yeah.
Remember when we used to pull those little trailers all the way to Frog's Leap ourselves?
Oh, that's right. You would bring 2 tons at a time in the early days. And we go back to 85. I think it's the first grapes we bought from you guys. So you've been a part of Frog's Leap for as long as we go. And then some craziness got over you and you started your own winery, and it's been wonderful. It really is. Can you guys talk a little bit about, how annoying it is to have the next generation bugging you all the time? Because that's what I'm having to face right now,
I'm still here, John.
Dad, the thing about cameras is even though he's not on the camera, he's still there.
He can hear me?
Yeah, I know. Zoom is crazy,
We're getting used to this technology. I didn't think Anthony was still there.
Too. So if I come on, then Anthony gets pushed off the end. So
yeah, that's right. Yeah,
need a bigger camera.
It's fabulous to have the next generation because you know what, you're like us. The older you get, the less energy you got. So
don't ever admit it, Joanne. No.
We'll take advantage right away.
Don't show any weakness.
Older than you, but we just got tired of always being on the road, and so when Anthony came and joined us in 2006, it was fabulous because he started doing most of the traveling. We maybe do 1 trip a month, but Anthony did the brunt of it. And then we have another son that's not on the payroll, but he is contract labor for us, our son John, and he has a vineyard management company. And as I said, in the early days, Tony and I would drive the grapes wherever they were going, whether it was all the way up to Cuvée-San or Duckhorn was the only one we didn't have to deliver. They'd come and get their own. But I did not like, and this was pulling gondolas, and I didn't like pulling gondolas.
Yeah.
When John started his first company called Vineworks, he said, Mom, we will take your grapes wherever you want them to go. So that was wonderful. So like I say, he's not on the payroll, but he's on the payroll.
Yeah.
His contract labor. So he's a big part. And also providing labor to us when we have 5 wineries, especially the Chardonnay guys that want their grapes first thing in the morning, and we have other grapes come in. We get his crew to pick at night so we can get all those grapes to all the wineries that want it. So it's a great relationship to have both of the boys from the younger generation joining us. So
yeah. Well, and I'm sure you would say that all your family supports you. And I mean, even though, Kelly and Kyler and are not active in the business, we're a family business. Even, I mean, your daughters are concerned about, I'm sure, what's going on and are part of the scenario as well. So family businesses don't necessarily mean everyone in the family has to be involved in driving the trucks, but we're all involved in the impact of the decisions that you make together, and you guys have done a great job of that.
Everybody's got skin in the game.
Everyone's got skin in the game.
Girls to all live in different places, and they finally did it. The oldest daughter is in New York City, daughter number 2, Austin, Texas, daughter number 3, Montana, daughter number 4, Burma. And so we told them, wherever you go, you have to promote Truchard. So they're part of the whole team, supporting the family brand. So we're very happy with every single one of them.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a cool question on here. Does Truchard try to use sustainable practices like Frog's Leaf does? And I think it's important to talk about how it's been a long relationship with Tony and the whole Truchard crew farming for us organically.
So we had a session last week where we talked about sustainability from the growing point of view. And Tony, you guys have been tremendous advocates and leaders in that now. And I know Anthony's contributed to that. But also the social aspect of the business, the family aspect of the business. Sustainability is who is more committed to sustainability than family wineries? And I think that you guys have done a tremendous job with that and preserving land. I mean, this is all land that you guys farm. Everyone would love to build a house on that land because it's gorgeous, right? With hilltop views and so on. You've conserved that land for years to come, isn't it? It's. I think it's really something you guys need to be commended for.
Thank you.
And for certain wineries, we're certified organic.
Well, that's correct. But I think you're Napa Green and everything else, so you guys do a great job. Yeah,
great job. And I think Dad, you were talking about how when we go down to Carneros to sample the Chardonnay, we're liable to run into Tony out there.
Yeah.
It's boots. A lot about sustainability is boots on the ground. It's not about we talk about certifications and those are important as well and all that, but having feet on the ground and really being a part of your vineyard out there is something why family wineries are so important. It's why family vineyards are so important. And it's why our relationship with the Truchards has been so important for all these years.
Yeah.
You get to rib him about about going down there and checking in on the grapes, and he gets to ask whether you got your heart rate up, checking the Chardonnay at the top of the hill. I
still wish Tony would take a forklift training course. You make me nervous every time you drive the forklift, Tony. But you're the best, my friend. We have had so much fun together over these years, and you guys have built a beautiful family in wine, and we're just excited to be a small part of it. So thank you for all the beautiful grapes over the years. For all of our listeners, Anthony, what's the website? Truchard.com. How do they find you?
Vineyards.com. Yep.
Truchardvineyards.com.
Truchardvineyards.com. Check these guys out. If you're ever in Napa, you can stop there for a drink before you head up to Frog's Leap. And you guys take care. Tony, we're going to get a little rain this weekend. Are you concerned about that? Or is that going to be okay? Or you probably won't get it in Carneros, only us up here, probably.
They dropped back the amount a little bit, I saw. So I don't know, last year we had a lot of rain during bloom, and it was amazing. All the Merlot clusters turned kind of brown, and I said, God, we're not going to have any Merlot this year. And somehow or another, I think when it's not a real hard downpour type rain, when it's these slow rains like we've been having lately, I hope it's not too much damage to
it's Mother Nature. There's not much we can do about it, John.
I know, but we can talk about it.
Of course, everybody wants less grapes, so maybe it's going to be all right.
No, after today, everyone's going to want to buy Frog's Leap and Truchard wine, so we're going to have to plant some more vineyard, I swear to God. How are we doing on questions, Rory? I mean, this is last chance, everyone out there, to ask questions of the Truchard. We're going to X him out there in a second. And
we got a couple cool questions. How many acres of vines does Truchard have besides Tony's 1 acre of Roussan? We've heard about the 1 acre, but how much? You guys have quite a bit of acreage right down there.
Yes, 262, I think, is when you consider just vine acres, not reservoirs, not avenues and roads, just vine acres, 262.
262 acres.
And you started with what?
21.
21? Oh my God. Yeah.
We actually have 412 acres. Tony bought his mountaintop property in 2018, and that has not been planted yet, but you'll have to come see that.
That is the most impressive sight.
He's already showing you the man.
Oh my God, you never stop.
And so
His plot picked out for you.
our vineyard stringing on the northeast side, it's across the valley, the Congress Valley, and it's an impressive view of the vineyard, and it kind of explains how we can do all these different varieties, and all. It's about 5 canyons running on that the west side of that ridge, and it gives a lot of different exposures. It's just
you've got to let us know once you planted the grapes. We're not interested at this point. That's for except for that 1 acre of Roussan you're planting for me.
Well, we laugh because it's pretty steep hillside, so there's not a lot on it that you can actually plant. But we were like, my dad really just bought it for the view.
Well, there's nothing wrong with that. Yeah. Well, can we raise our glass to you guys? Thank you guys so much for joining us today. It is great to be sharing some wine with you. And, we wish you guys continued success, and we'll see you down in the vineyard shortly. And thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for inviting us.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Thanks for sharing the wines. Cheers.
So, Rory.
Dad, these are some pretty good wines.
Get some pretty good wines today, huh?
I know.
Yeah, this is good day drinking.
This is a good day drink. I don't think we've had, it's been a while since we've had 4 glasses on the same day drinking session.
Well, look, we only have a few more minutes here. We want to, let's see how many, we have a couple minutes. But we want to thank you guys again for joining us. Hope you enjoyed these wines. Really do support the Truchards. They're unbelievable people, and supporting family wineries. We talked about this last week in the sustainability idea is vote with your wine dollars, and who you choose to support and how they farm, how they treat their farm workers. The Truchards are excellent examples of that. So if you have any money left over after you buy Frog's Leap wine, please.
It struck me. I was looking at the crop reports that every year the Napa County Ag Commissioner puts out a report of how many acres of every variety and all of that. There are only 14. There are only 14 acres of Roussan in all of Napa County.
Really,
it's a pretty rare grape. And there's not even 100 acres of it in the whole state. So it's kind of fun drinking wines like this Roussan, which I often describe the essence of California wine is it's this responsibility to make good on crazy ideas.
I need to go back to this, by the way.
I think you need to go back to it because to me, this Roussan captures that essence of a crazy idea that Tony had to plant some Roussanne, a grape that nobody had ever heard of in California, and many people still haven't heard of, and been working on it for over 20 years. This beautiful wine that's got tons of depth and tons of complexity.
I think he's an OG.
I think he is an OG, and I think you used that word correctly for the first time in your entire life, and so we're really proud of you.
Well, once again, you guys, this has been so much fun. It's obviously a bittersweet week for our family. Thinking of all my family out there, and and we continue to hear from your families. Please, you don't burden me when you email me at john@frogsleap.com. I love to hear what you guys are doing, what you're eating with these wines, who you're sharing these wines with. It means a lot to us. This has really been a lot of fun.
Yeah, we've been getting emails about some of you are sharing these wines. With your spouse or with some loved ones, with family, and it's kind of a respite from all the craziness right now. My reaction to those emails is like, look, this is why we do it. We joke about the 100 points and all this stuff because we love to make fun of that kind of stuff. All the trappings of wine being about luxury and being about prestige and stuff like this. The whole point of wine is to drink it and to share it and to have it with food, to share it with loved ones. Meal.
Oh my gosh, I got the Kleenex over here.
This is why we do it. This is why I'm, as a second generation, this is why I'm here, is to be able to make these wines and share them with you all and have them be shared and be enjoyed at, times that are ordinary and times that are extraordinary. And so it's really fun. It's why we brought the Truchards on to talk about their wines.
Well, and can we talk about next week? Are we going to get to your?
We're gonna wrangle as many family members as we can.
It's Memorial Day weekend next weekend, you guys. We want you to join us. We're going to try a few wines that we recommend with Memorial Day picnics. And maybe even a few surprises. We're going to try to rope a few of our family members to join us, and that's our goal for this week. And so we're going to make it a lot of fun next week, continuing on this theme of great wine, family, and sustainability, and memories of those who have passed. So please join us next week for another great tasting. We love you guys. We appreciate all the support. Keep the chat and the questions coming, and we'll see you next week, okay?
See you guys next week.
Love you. Bye.